Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. It's time for the SwellPro SplashDrone 3 water ocean test. Couldn't be a nicer day today. So we're gonna put this SplashDrone 3 to the test, and first of all, I'm gonna set it up really quick, just see how long it takes to set up if you're on location, and get it all going up in the air, and let's see how it does. I'll run back down to the beach when we get it up in the air. I wanna test the return to home, so I'm gonna mark a spot here, see how accurate it is returning to home after we're done flying. So let's test this SplashDrone 3 in the ocean. Okay, cool. So first thing, we want to just unzip the package it comes in, and I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible so you guys can see just how fast it is to set it up. 4 propellers, we need the gimbal, we need the drone. Of course, this is a little more set up than the last one because these landing gear aren't on, so we need to make sure we set these up. So this one goes on this side. I want to make sure that these are really down in there because we don't want these falling off, of course. So shoving them in until we hear that click where they bottom out. Preferably you want to kind of do them both at the same time. I guess it doesn't really matter. Just tweak it, bend it, make sure those things are on good. Next thing we're going to do is put on the gimbal. I do have a 16 gig card in here in the gimbal, so we'll be able to do some. I think I'm just going to leave it for this test in the high definition state, the 1080p 60 frames per second, how it came, and then we'll do a later test with the 4K. Okay, so just locking that down in there, right on the little square piece of aluminum mount. Screwing in our thumb screw. I think I got a quarter in my pocket. Ooh, lucky. Just bought a drink and I got a quarter. So I'm gonna use that quarter to just crank that down a little tighter. Should probably leave that in the box. All right, next thing is just connecting the camera to the bottom. You can see how we have the red arrow lining up, so it seats down in there properly and screwed on tight so we get no water leakage. Put on the propellers, so CCW to CCW. I'm just going to kind of spin it until it notches down, and all right, there's that one. This is a CW. Man, it's hot today. You can probably see me sweating. It's really still right now. There's no wind whatsoever, so it's going to be perfect for flying. Okay, another one. So that seems like an easy way to do it. Just push down a little bit and spin the motor until it kind of just pushes down and you know you're in the right location. And then just do the twist lock. All right, cool. So you always want to be twisting on the downward edge that way to make sure it goes down and locks. Giving them all kind of a twist and tug and pulling up, making sure nothing's going to fly off. Okay, so that's basically all the hardware mounting. Now we just have to boot everything up and make sure it can take off. I haven't calibrated the compass yet, so I wanted to go over with that with you folks before I fly. It's always good to calibrate the compass at least once, you know, in the area of flight, away from any interference. Let's turn on the controller first. So, and then we're going to turn on the drone. Let it sit there for just a sec. Okay. Oh, there we go. So it seemed like I had to flip the video switch real quick back and then up to preview in the middle just to get it all going. Okay, so for this one you want to shove the battery cables apparently back behind the battery. It's really adamant about that, SwellPro, for some reason, maybe because of the GPS interference. What I should know, guys, before I screw this on, is I just wanted to tell you, remember in the first episode of the unboxing, if you watch that, the FPV antenna was down in one of these nipples which I didn't think was going to be good for landing in the water and still having FPV on the screen. And also the control antenna was in one of the arms, but it was kind of down low and wedged in between the ESC. So basically for the FPV, I taped it up to the top of the arm, and also for the control, the 2.4 gigahertz control, I taped them both to the top of the arms. So we're going to see how that orientation is going to be different than the SplashDrone 2, which I basically had both control antennas sticking down in these nipples. So hopefully it's a little better, because in the SplashDrone 2 review, I was getting, basically my FPV was cutting out when it landed, completely cutting out. So this is going to be ready to fly. So I want to really crank these down pretty good. Make sure they're really finger tight. That should be good to go. For the compass calibration, what you do is when the thing's booted up like this, you go from GPS down to attitude a few times. And what you should see is the lights on the bottom should turn yellow. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate like this. We should see these lights turn green, I believe. There we go. So they turn green. Now we're going to face it down. Go counterclockwise is what it says. And it says it fails if the lights are on red for 3 seconds. It looks like they're flashing again, so it should be good to go. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to put these instructions away and close this thing up, and we're ready to fly, guys. It's good to let it sit there just for a minute to get GPS satellites. So I'm going to put these little seeds right here where I'm going to be launching from. Hopefully they don't blow away when I launch, but general area of launching. So let's see what our satellites are. I know you guys can't see this, and I can't record the screen because I don't have any DVR with me right now, but it's got 16 satellites. I'm just going to try to get in there a little close so you can see what's going on. Now let's start the video by pushing this button up. And we can see on our screen, we get that little red flashing icon there, and we're ready to go. So all we need to do, we're normal GPS, and both sticks to the bottom middle. Easy. Cool. So that arm's super quick and easy. Now all we have to do is lift off, so I'm just going to throttle up. Wow. Okay. Wandered a little bit from its spot, but look at that. It went back to right above those seeds. And that's going to be our home position, so remember that when we do a return to home. Cool. So it's looking good so far. I'm just going to bring it over here so we're not blowing around those seeds. And let's just see how it kind of performs. Here's our yaw rate. Wow, the altitude hold looks like it got way better than the last SwellPro 2, SplashDrone 2. Okay, here's our yaw rate. So full stick to the left. That's our full yaw. And let's see how that horizon is in the camera. Nice and level. Okay, cool. Kind of wandered a little bit afterwards. Let's see what our maximum pitch and roll is. So full pitch back. Nice. Full pitch forward. Letting off. And you can see how it looks like it's pitching to around, I want to say like 25, 30 degrees. So that should give us some good speed. Cool. Let's see what our punch test is. So full throttle up. See if we have any readings here. Vertical 0.2 meters per second. I'm not sure if that's vertical speed or what, but we see our height over here is 51 feet. Actually 51, that might be 51 meters. Full throttle down, and we can see our height dropping. Yeah, our vertical speed, there you go, let off the sticks. Wow, so it stops itself pretty quick, within like a foot or two on full throttle down. So it doesn't look like the vertical millisecond speed is very accurate because it's like 0.2, 0.1. So I don't think I'm going to really trust that. Anyway, let's try the gimbal real quick. Let's see how our horizon's doing. Looks like our horizon's a little bit off, so I'm just going to adjust it. You'll see that in the camera. I just kind of flattened it out. Pitching the camera down, full speed. I'm doing a little bit of a punch up. So that's camera all the way down, camera all the way up. So it's got a nice wide angle. And keep in mind, if that horizon does get slightly off, you can always level it out with the left roller. So that's definitely very good. So guys, you know what we need to do is get out there to the water and let's test this thing in the water before too much of the battery dies. So I'm gonna grab my suitcase here and just fly it out. Fly it over to my little camping spot, little chair area. Don't hit the tree, that's for sure. Let's fly it out here. Let it sit there. So I'm already noticing a huge improvement from the SplashDrone 2. This thing is locked in solid. Look how solid that thing is locked in. Forgot to do my walk around, but it's pretty prevalent that it's just sticking there in the air. So let's go out here to the shoreline before we lose too much battery. I don't want to bring all of my phone in case I get in the water. I'm gonna leave all that here. Okay. All right, so everything looks good. FPV is looking very clear, actually. This is gonna be a great test. So far, so good. Let's get out here. This is what this thing's made for, being on the beach and flying. Let me just show you that rock solid hover again. If I can control my finger. So I'm just gonna stand here, right here. And now we're getting some wind about, 2 to 5 coming from this direction. And look at that altitude hold. Really, really good. All right, let's get out there in the water. Full stick forward. Let's see if it maintains its altitude. Holy smokes. Is it going down a little bit? It might be going down a little, so I'm gonna pick it up. Just a little bit. So it just dropped like maybe a foot. Look at this, so full pitch back. It's doing really good. Letting off right now. So it needed about 15 feet to stop. Awesome, guys. Flying much better than the SplashDrone 2, that's for sure. And I keep saying that. Let's get it in this water. What do you say? I do have my goggles just in case I gotta go rescue it, and I have some water shorts on. So this looks like a good spot right here. It's kind of reefy right out here, but I want to just, you know what, let me go over here where we can be kind of close up to it. Man, that thing is so stable. It's exciting. I just want to go over to this little nook. Bear with me. Let's not fall down. This will be a good test on how long the battery can last too. Okay, this is a good spot. So what I want to do, whoa, definitely not fall down. I'm gonna drop it right here in the water. So 3, 2, 1, going down. Okay. So the propellers are still spinning. And let's see how the FPV is. Camera down. Yay, my FPV theory worked. A lot clearer picture. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I have it pointed down to the bottom of the ocean, and there's some reef there. With the SplashDrone 2, this was like unseeable in the FPV, so this is great. So as you can see, I'm in the water. I'm gonna pitch back a little bit, and you can actually like swim it around a little. This is great. Whoa. Okay, I just launched it because it was kind of getting a little weird. Okay, so it actually went up on its own a little, crazy like. Let's get our horizon back up. And you can see how the horizon kind of tilted from the camera. So I'm gonna adjust that with my left roller. So here we are again. So SplashDrone 3 is still doing very good in the water. Let's go out a ways and see how our FPV is. Get the antennas up a little. And I'm gonna drop it out here pretty far away. So I'm like 100 meters away. And absolutely for sure, if I dropped it at this distance, the SplashDrone 2 would have completely lost signal. Let's try to see what kind of sea life we can see. So I'm gonna go down and just dip it in the water. Oh, shoot. Nice. And we still have very good FPV. And as you can see, I'm yawing it left to right. Whoops. It picked itself up. So that's what it'll do. So if you wanted to like let it sit in the water, you might have to disarm it. I'm just gonna hold down a little bit, and you can see how I'm just kind of holding it down and yawing a little bit. And we still have good FPV. I'll have that up on the screen. I guess you can't see my FPV, but there it is. A little bit scratchy, but still much more visible. So I'm gonna dunk it in, turn the camera all the way down, and do a full-on punch-up shot. 3, 2, 1, punch. Yes. There we go, guys. Okay, so far so good with the waterproof. Let's get up to around, 400 feet. Let's see what happens. Full throttle up. Okay, there's something splashing on the screen. Let's just go to 120 meters, so that's about 400 feet. Now let's just take a look at the surroundings here. Gimbal up. So on the screen I saw a low battery warning, return to home flash real quick. So it's warning us. I'm going to adjust my horizon to level. And here's a nice panoramic shot of the islands here on Maui. There's Molokini. There's Kaho'olawe. And here is McKenna. And pitch down a little because we're getting a little bit of exposure issues, a little dark. Nice. So leaps and bounds better than the first SplashDrone 2. That's where I am, right down there somewhere. Looking really good. Let's see if we can take a picture. I'm gonna take a picture of this by just clicking this button down to preview. It stopped the video. And now we'll take a picture. And I'll have that pop up on the screen. You know what I mean? Let's take one more photo. So I click back up to the middle, clicking down, take another photo. Nice. So occasionally I'm getting that battery low return to home pop up on the FPV. So I guess I'm gonna bring it down. Okay, so now for sure it's telling us return to home. So it looks like it may not automatically return to home. But there is a reticle in the middle of the screen, and that's showing me where my home position is, so that's cool. So I can turn the craft and I can see this little diamond, and it's telling me exactly where its home position is. That's great because it's showing exactly where it launched from. So you're not gonna see that in the video of the craft, but I can see that on my FPV. So I'll tell you what, I'm very satisfied so far with this thing. Let me bring it on down, try to do a little rolo, hit the water really hard going forward, and then we'll bring it in, bring it home, and see how it does with return to home accuracy. Okay, so coming on down, tilting the gimbal back up, letting off. Very good. You can see that video, how stable it is, full pitch forward. Nice. So check this out, guys. I'm gonna go really low, and I'm gonna go full pitch forward and try to just make it like run into the water and try to flip. The other one did that and it actually would flip over. So full pitch forward, pulling it down, boom! It flipped over. Okay, it's staying flipped over. Can we, uh-oh. Can you arm? Oh no, okay. Please. You'll see the video up there, guys. I may have to jump in for this thing. The SplashDrone 2 actually was more self-righting, it seems, than this one. I'm trying to arm, but it's upside down and it doesn't seem like it's arming. Oh boy, leave it to me to... Yeah, shoot. So, I'm gonna set this thing down and jump in real quick. That was a little bit precarious. Let's see if we just do a return to home, what'll happen. Is it gonna try? Let's try to arm and then return to home. Arming, possibly return to home. Okay, SwellPro, something you can work on, make it self-right and come back. Because it's not, it's just gonna stay flipped over. Hey, yeah. Dustin? Yep. I gotta go jump in and save this waterproof drone real fast.
What? You got a swing for it? No. This is not far.
Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that thing recording for you guys to see what's going on. I'm gonna jump in, put on these goggles, and we'll jump in after it. Okay guys, wow, so went ahead and got this out of the water and saved it. Swam out to it, saved it. Lucky thing there was no big current. It was just kind of floating out there upside down. But so I'd have to say that's a big con for me, because the last SplashDrone would actually flip over and self-right, it seemed. It seems like these guys kind of made it shut off and unarmable when it's upside down or at certain angles. So they may want to rethink that if it's out and you can't get to it. It really would be nice to arm the motors when it was upside down and just kind of do a maneuver, like a roll right, roll left, and get it upright so you can take off again if you can't swim out to it. We didn't get a chance to test our return to home, so I'm going to pop in a battery, get it back up to the golf course here, fly it around a bit, and then see how the return to home is. Okay, wow guys, so that was interesting. In the saltwater over there, I had a little bit of a problem with it flipping over and I couldn't get it flipped back over. So I went to my car and I got a new battery, refreshed the battery, and we're gonna continue on with the return to home. So I'm just gonna launch it, fly around a little bit. I may put on the Fpv goggles. I've got some Fat Shark, or Amways rather, Fpv goggles, and let you guys see how it looks if you have those on your face instead of just looking at the screen. So we'll do that. We'll do some flying around and return to home. And then what I'm gonna do, if you guys can hang out a little longer, I know this is gonna be a long video, is I wanna go back home and just try that upside down flip in the pool. What I had done was, right after that happened and I came back, I went ahead and messaged SwellPro, and they told me don't disarm it. If it flips over, it'll be upside down, and you can actually move the pitch and the roll on your joystick, your right stick, and roll it back over. So I'm gonna try that in the pool. I don't really wanna try that over here. The wind kind of came up. It's getting a little bit rougher, but we're gonna do a little more, and then we're gonna pop into the pool at home and try that flip test in the pool. Okay, so I'm gonna use this stick right here. I got everything powered up. We got 18 satellites, and I'm gonna use this stick as kind of our point of launch and see if it returns to home right where this stick is. Hopefully it doesn't blow around when we lift off, but the wind came up too, so this would be a good test to see how it holds up in a little bit of wind. Let me just bust out my anemometer, wind gauge, and let's see exactly how much wind we got coming from the west right now. So it went a little bit above 10 right there. So it looks like it's between 5 and 10, maybe sometimes gusting just a little bit higher. Let's go ahead and arm the motors. Nice, so we're ready to go. We're lifting off. Okay. And it's being pushed back a little bit. So it should remember where it launched from, where that stick is. Didn't look like the stick moved. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring it out here. I do have the recording going, and I'm gonna come back down. I'm just gonna stick it like right here for a second, a little bit higher up. And I'm just gonna stick it there, and I'm gonna turn on the Fpv goggles over here. So this will be kind of a good hover test. See how long it can just hover there. for a little bit. Let's pop on these Amways. See how this looks. Seems like it's doing way better than the SplashDrone 2 as far as its elevation goes. I know you guys saw that in the water, but it's holding its elevation really good this time. So since these have linear antennas in the SplashDrone 3, I'm just going to be putting on linear antennas. So we have a monopole here that it comes with the Amways, and then actually this guy here I got from this is the Bandicoot Patch Linear 5.8 gigahertz from Menace RC. So they were kind enough to send me this. We're going to test this out on the other diversity antenna here and see how this actually works when we have the goggles on. See how clear of a picture we get. That thing's still there. I haven't touched the controller since I stuck it there. Well, that's awesome. All right, cool. So the goggles are recording, and I'll tell you what, I'm just going to sit down here and fly this with you guys while I'm wearing the goggles. So you can kind of see what I'm seeing as I fly around. Then when the battery's about to die, we'll go ahead and do a return to home. So this is awesome. We're getting all the facets of what this drone can do. All right. So recording, let's go up and over. I don't think I'm gonna go in the water anymore, like inside the water, but I'm gonna go up and over. You know what I mean? Just so we get a little bit of, maybe a little slight range test. I do trust it over the water and stuff. You can see how our horizon's a little bit off again, so I'm gonna adjust that horizon so it's nice and flat in our video. Right about there, looks good. All right, so video is super nice and clear. You guys can see that. And you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fly over to the McKenna cinder cone here. It's a little hard to make sure. There we go. Okay. So maybe this will be a slight range test. Let's just go along the coast here. I don't want to go too far out in the water. Wow, the picture just got nice and clear when I got a little further away. So I'm turning my head just slightly to the left, and I got the goggles on again, and I'm just cruising down the coast. Let's pitch the camera down a little bit, and just want to see, you know, how far this thing will go. Not exactly how far it'll go. Okay, so now my FPV is slightly cutting out. There, it just came back in clear. So maybe it was switching between its diversity antennas there. I'm just gonna go up. I'm full stick forward. I'm gonna kind of go up and see what we can see over here above this cinder cone. Still full stick forward. I have my controller pointing at it. And it looks like maybe that's our range. So let's see what we can see on our distance. So 500 meter distance, and it does kind of look like I'm out of control. I have no more forward capability, I don't think. Let me turn this camera down again. I am full pitch forward and doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. Yeah, so it's just sticking there. I can turn it left and right, but I can't go any more than 500 meters. That's interesting. Maybe there's some kind of lock on it. Anyway, 500 meters is my maximum range on this guy. Full pitch forward. Let's see if we turn the camera down and go full pitch back. Boom, full pitch back. Yeah, it's coming back, but watch when I go. Okay, let off the stick. I'm gonna go full pitch forward now, and I'm watching the distance there on the left of the screen, and it stops right there at 500 meters. So I don't know, it's not returning home, so I'm thinking maybe SwellPro implemented some kind of distance limit of 500 meters. So that's interesting. Maybe there's some way we can get into the flight controller and change that if we wanted to. But just so you guys know what's going on, looks like there's a 500 meter limit from the factory. Wow, and look at this blue water. So I'm just gonna kind of cruise around, maybe do a little bit of shark searching here. Full stick forward. And let's get the camera pointing down. You know what it seems like to me possibly is, it almost seems like this thing's got some kind of polarized lens on it. Beautiful. So this is going to be the 2K video you guys are seeing. Let's see what our height is. 59 meters, I believe that is. That's higher than 59 feet. So that's 59 meters high. Cruising over again. Cruising over the shoreline. There's that reticle again telling me where my home is going to be. That diamond in the middle. You see how it's moving to the right? Because it knows my home point is this way. Looks pretty close to spot on. That's great. Okay, what's our voltage at? 14.9, 15 volts. So I'm just going to keep it kind of close. I should be getting some kind of, this one actually implemented a warning on the screen. You know, when you do start getting, your voltage starts getting low, so that's great. I'm just going to fly over the beach here a little bit so you guys can enjoy the view. And pick our camera up a little and check out Wailea. And then I'm going to flip into return to home and we'll do a return to home test. So just kind of observing. There's a hotel under construction there. There's the abandoned golf course I'm on. Cool. Well, I think this is enough time to kind of let it figure out what it's doing. Let's go over this point. See if we can spot any cool stuff down here. I'm gonna get the sun to my back and rotate down a little bit. I'll let you kind of check out this reef while I roll it. See I'm rolling to the left, the leg comes in view there. Go forward a little bit. Beautiful down there, isn't it? Look at that. So that should be 2K video, guys. I'll have that up on the screen as well as my FPV view. Really nice view there. Is that just a coral head there in the center of the screen? That's interesting. No, it looks like it's moving. What? Maybe that's a turtle. What is that? Whoa, wait a minute. What in the world? Is that a turtle, guys? Come on, FPV. That looks like a giant turtle, guys. You see that thing under the water? Wow. Maybe not. Maybe it's a coral head. It really did look, it really does or did look like it was moving, but that could just be my eyes playing tricks on me. See that thing I'm talking about right in the middle of the screen? It must just be a coral head. I don't think a turtle's gonna be that giant. Anyway, awesome. So I'm gonna flip into return to home now, and you see how it should be going that way. I'm gonna point off my return to home and then flip into it and see what it does. Okay, so right switch, flipping in. FPV started to get a little scratchy, and it turned its head to its return to home position, and it's coming on home. Nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these goggles down and go back into my line of sight mode here. I'll keep these goggles recording just so you guys can see what's going on. Just gonna set them right here on the chair. And let's go see how this drone's doing. Okay, so now again I'm looking at the screen on the FPV. All right, so it's turning the face out, I can still rotate my gimbal however I want. There it is up there. You can see on my hat cam. I got the gimbal facing all the way down. And let's just see how close to that stick it lands. Hopefully that stick's still there. Didn't get blown away. Yeah, so the stick's right there. Let's see what happens. Okay, camera up. All the way up, and I'm not touching it. I haven't touched it except for the gimbal. Oh! Whew. Okay, so I was trying to fight that wind. You saw that little spin. That was a little scary. I'm gonna stop the recording. Really hope that's gonna save. Awesome. So that's totally acceptable for a return to home. That was, what is that? 1, 2, that's 3 feet, guys. So great GPS on there. Excellent. There's not much more I can do here. Let's get over to the house. I really want to test that upside down thing in the water and see if you can self-right it if it goes upside down. I just a little scared to do it here because I think I disarmed it in the water like I was saying, and I just couldn't rearm it in the water. So we'll go over to the pool if you still want to hang out and see how it does. Well, okay guys, I'm back out the house here with the SplashDrone 3, and that was pretty fun, wasn't it, at the beach, testing all the stuff. So far, pretty impressed. I just want to figure out what the problem was when I flipped it over and I couldn't spin it back remotely on the water. So here's my little pool. This is for my kids. Sorry about the wind. It's like 50 times windier at my house than it was at the beach. So what I'm going to do is launch it and, I don't know, maybe put it in GPS or attitude mode and just try to fly in and simulate hitting the water and flipping it upside down like I did at the beach, and see if I don't disarm it, because you know it's kind of hard to tell when I was out there in the water like what I was doing and if I disarmed it or not, because you can't really see the motor spinning and stuff. But right here, line of sight, I'm going to do that and see when it does flip over and it's still armed, if I can just push one of the sticks and self-right it like that without having to pull it out of the water like I did at the beach there. So that was interesting, wasn't it? Swimming out to find a drone. I'm hoping some of that video came up of the rescue and stuff. But anyway, let me boot this up and then we'll try to crash into the water, flip it over, and see if it can self-right. Okay, so just gonna wait till these little Sanai's little chicks get out of the way from the SplashDrone. I don't want to get them in the propellers. Watch out, chickies. That's her little little white one's a Silky, and she's having fun with them. Uh oh, you guys, come on, out of the way. Sorry about that. So okay, I think I'm just gonna try it in attitude mode, just because I'm near my house and I don't want the GPS to like hit something. I'm not sure. Let's just see how it goes. Oh, chicken, out of the way. Okay, attitude mode, and we're just going to take off. Whew. All right, so don't try this at home, folks. We're going to try to crash in this water. Really hope I don't mess up my pool. Anyway, whoa, that's gusting. Ugh. Okay, so I'm just flying in the water. Not really able to flip it. I'm just in attitude mode, of course. I don't know how I'm gonna flip this thing. Okay, let's try again. Go a little faster in here. Ugh. I don't know. How am I gonna flip it in here? This is funny. Oh! Try this again. Come in faster, maybe. Ugh. Can't seem to flip it. So I might need to try to find a way, safe way to grab it and flip it over while it's armed like this. Oh, let's try this. Straight down. Ooh. Nope. Whoa. Almost flipped it there. Let's try that again. full throttle and forward. Almost. Man, this is like the torture test if there ever was one. Don't hit the... Whoa. Almost hit the side of the pool there. That's not what we want to do. Okay, if anything, this is a good freshwater torture test. Okay, let me figure out how I'm going to flip it over. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. This might be a little dangerous, but I am going to arm it, have it floating here, and then I'm going to grab underneath, give it a little bit of throttle so it thinks it's launched, and then I'm just going to turn it like this and flip it over, and we'll see what happens. And again, don't try this at home either, because this is pretty dangerous with these propellers spinning. Arming, grabbing the bottom, giving a little bit of throttle, and grabbing really hard on the bottom here. Okay, it thinks it's up. Oh, there we go. So it just disarmed. That's no good. You see that? So it was still, it looked like it was trying to fight level, but then it just disarmed and I couldn't rearm it upside down. Let's try that again. Flipping it over, let me try to arm both sticks in. Whoa! It armed for a second, and then I'm hearing the controller beep, so. Man, that's too bad. Unfortunately, if it flips over, it disarms, it seems. See what happens when I try to arm it? And then full to the right. You see how it got sideways, but it re-disarms before it can flip. All the way. You see how the propeller just stopped? Let's see if we give it some throttle and do that. Oh, not quite, but very close. Okay. So SwellPro needs to work on that, because it just disarms after like 1 or 2 seconds when it's upside down. So interesting. Let's try one more time. Okay, so when it's up right side up, I'm arming. There we go. Now I can launch again. Okay, normal flight. Oh, watch out for the pool. Yeah, so I can't really flip it, guys, in this pool. I can't really simulate like a wave or anything. But to me, it just seems like once it's disarmed, or once it flips, it disarms. And you just see that when I flipped it over? Because I had a little throttle on it and I just threw it over. And yeah, so it did disarm. So anywho, that's what we can expect on the flipping over. You know, I really seem to remember in the SplashDrone 2 I tested, remember at the beach? You guys should check that out if you haven't seen it. I'll have it in the description. But at that same place at the beach, I hit a wave going forward, it flipped over upside down, and it was actually trying to self-right itself on its own, and I could also use the controls, and it seemed like it would even without any motor movement, it would actually bob and then flip over on its, you know, right side up without any help from the motors. So, and that was with the GoPro. The SplashDrone 2 had a GoPro enclosure, you know, that one. And so that was the equivalent of this, just in the SplashDrone 2 model. So that kind of worries me a little bit, you know, that with this camera on, at least you can't do that. So maybe something they can work on to have it try to self-right itself a little better. Because if you're out and you don't have any way of jumping in the water and getting it, and it's stuck upside down like that, let me just show you one more time how it stays upside down. Another little demonstration. Hopefully no water's getting in there. We'll open this up and see if there's any water in there. So see how it flips over? I seem to remember that the SplashDrone 2, actually the buoyancy of the whole thing, it flipped itself like that. Can't really remember, but I didn't have this problem with the second one. So it seems like everything is better on this one except that. You know, it had really good altitude hold, is leaps and bounds better than the SplashDrone 2. Let me take this out of the water. Let's check if there's any water stuck in it on this trampoline over here. Camera's still working and everything. I can see the FPV here on the screen, so that's a good sign. Let's see if we have any water in here, and then we'll go into kind of our pros and cons if you want to stick around. One thing SwellPro told me, you guys, that I really need to get across to you guys is really crank these things down. I know I was saying finger tight in my flight test at the beach, but when I was talking to them about the flip over thing, and when I went back to my car, they said crank these down a little more, just so no water gets in there, even a little more than finger tight. Maybe that same quarter you're using to crank down this you know, this gimbal here, use that same quarter and just give this a little more crank than finger tight. Anyway, taking off the top, just a little bit of water around the rim, and that's normal. Of course, that's going to happen. Looking inside here, I'm seeing no water whatsoever. Let's get in the sunlight here. I'm just going to tilt it up. So you see in there, if there was water, we'd see it kind of coming in there on the side, but I'm not seeing any water droplets at all. So it's definitely doing its job at keeping the inside waterproof, so that's good. So let's do a little pros and cons. That was a really good review. I think I did it pretty much just about as thorough as my SplashDrone 2 review. The same type of ocean scenario. This one we got a little extra in the pool over here, so that was cool just to test that flipping over deal. And that's the only con I can see with this one, is that it may not be as easy as I want to flip over once it goes upside down underwater. It may just because of the way this gimbal camera setup is, you know, the way it's kind of sitting in the center and a little bit heavy. I know I had the GoPro enclosure on the SplashDrone 2, and it just seemed like the SplashDrone 2 flipped over easier in the water. This one seems to just, as soon as it goes over, it disarms. And you can briefly arm it for like 1-2 seconds, and then it goes like this, and then it disarms again. So once it's upside down, unless there's some firmware we can mess with, or they fix it, you kind of got to go get it. So I don't really like that. You know, maybe if it's in the water and there's enough wave action, it'll eventually flip it over and self-right itself. But if it's calm and there's no wave action to flip it over, you're kind of stuck and you got to go retrieve it. So, but everything else, the altitude hold compared to the first SplashDrone 2 was amazing. That thing was rock solid. GPS was great. You could see it was in 3 feet of where I put that stick, and when we did a return to home, it was definitely within acceptance to its return to home. 3 feet is fine. Anything within 5 feet, in my book, with all the stuff I test, is a-okay as far as return to home goes in a high quality, more expensive drone like this. So the FPV controller, it worked great. It may be kind of splash proof. It's definitely not waterproof, but you know, you're going to be able to get a little bit of splashing on it. If you take your drone in salt water, really important to, as soon as you can afterwards, spray everything, soak everything, spin everything really good. Of course, the outer, not the insides. If you have a pool, even a small pool or a tub or something, I'd recommend even a tub if you don't have a pool. Fill your tub up, you know, to about above this, and just dunk it in there, spin the motors around, even by hand. You don't have to do it with, you know, it powered on. Of course, powered on if you can, like in a pool like this. Even taking the propellers off, you know, I actually do that when I'm finished in the salt water. I take the propellers off and I just dunk it in the pool, and I turn everything on and I make the motors spin and stuff, so the fresh water flushes out all that salt water, especially in the gimbal motors too, and the regular motors. One more thing that was kind of unusual to me is you saw that 500 meter limit. I was going towards the McKenna cinder cone, they call it, over there in McKenna, where I live here in Maui. And I was full pitch forward, and it just eventually stopped. But it seems to have a wall at 500 meters. I'm gonna have to talk to SwellPro and see if that's the case. I actually sent them an email just before I got home. and a Skype chat, and we're going to see if it in fact does have a software limitation of 500 meters as they said it from the factory. I'd really like to see it go further than that, because 500 meters, you know, that's not super far, and I was still in perfect control. I could yaw it left and right and roll left and right, and as soon as I pulled back on the stick and pointed the camera down, I could see I was coming back. So it definitely was still in control and wasn't losing any kind of signal. The FPV signal was getting a little scratchy at that distance, 500 meters, and that's mainly because it's got these little linear antennas inside the arms, and there's some interference in here. So the video transmitter it's using and the antenna setup, I think, is maybe something they can work on. It would be really cool to have a solution where whether you're upside down or right side up or on the water or up from the water, you still have really good FPV, and you can kind of remedy that by putting the FPV antenna, the transmitter antenna, in the arm like this. Of course, I'm not sure how much the motor and the ESC right here is influencing it, but if you put it like right halfway on the arm, you still have some signal, maybe up in the arm like I taped it up. You still have signal when it's sitting on the water. So I went ahead and pulled all the antennas out and made sure they were taped up in the arms, and that seemed to really actually make it better than how I just did the first SplashDrone 2 test. I just left the antennas down in these nipples, as I was saying in the SplashDrone 2 test, and really when you landed that one, you just all your FPV would pretty much cut out. So it's definitely better like this. Pull those things out, put them in the arms. Maybe eventually they can get some kind of setup where we have antennas up and out. So as far as the video footage goes, this is that gimbal camera. Again, this is the 2-axis gimbal here, and of course it's 4K, but I didn't shoot it in 4K only because it does 24 frames per second maximum 4K, and I don't really like that limited frames per second there. The video ends up being kind of choppy and stuff. So technically it can do 4K, but I only did 1080, 60 I believe, and 2K. The 2K was 30 frames per second. So I'll have that all up during the review so you can see how that all looks. It did seem to have some kind of maybe a polarized lens on here, slightly polarized, because I've never seen the water that clear just from a regular lens like this facing down over in that area. It looked like it could really penetrate through the water, and you could see all those coral formations and shelves and stuff. That was pretty neat. Near the ending of the beach test, was that a giant turtle? I don't think so. I think it was just a coral head, and I was just seeing the water, the waves of the water move, and it looked like that big thing was moving through the water. So I really doubt that was a big turtle, but super fun anyway. We got it under the water. You could see some fish under the water, and how that moving the antennas up in here for the FPV was allowing us to see FPV while it was sitting on the water. So that was pretty neat. And another cool thing was the FPV goggles. You saw those Amway goggles I had on. I was talking to you guys, I was recording those. So that's the cool thing about using an analog 5.8 gigahertz FPV, is because you can grab any kind of race drone goggles, anything you've got around the house, and you can just lock onto that signal and use your FPV goggles to fly this thing, which is really cool. So I really like that feature. Of course, it doesn't have the digital technology like DJI does. It's not using that digital technology, but there is something to be said for analog 5.8 gigahertz FPV. Of course, it's not going to be as clear, you know, high definition, but unless they can do something like DJI does with their light bridge and their OcuSync, there's really no way to get a better FPV from wireless. DJI really has that proprietary, really good technology. I don't know how they do it, but if SwellPro could look into doing something like that and get that long range, high definition FPV in here, that would be really awesome. So I think the next step for SplashDrone, when they come out with the SplashDrone 4, they've got a great motor interlocking propeller setup, pretty good camera setup, gimbal setup. If they can somehow work on their battery, instead of having to take off this whole thing and put your battery in and close it all up, if they can somehow work out some type of easy to remove external battery system, and also something like DJI has, where you have that DJI Go 4 type of application where it's all digital, it's all inclusive. That would be pretty awesome, where you can touch the screen, do stuff, and also just control it, kind of like DJI does. I think if they did that in the SplashDrone 4 or future generations, they'd really have this thing going. But you know, this is the 3rd generation on this, and it is getting better, so I'll give them that. I just had a couple of shortcomings, nothing too major, but that flipping over thing and not being able to get it back up was kind of a major con for me, especially since this is made to sit on the water and be in the water. Oh, and don't forget, as usual, I will have the links to this SplashDrone 3 down in the description, so check out down there below the video if you want to see what the pricing is on these guys. For what they can do, I think they're pretty affordable, especially since they're waterproof and they can handle that much abuse and that powerful. And you get this full FPV setup. I think they're set right at a pretty good price for this whole waterproof setup. So I'll have those links down below in the description so you can check out pricing. And they have a few different models of this one. I think there's just a standard one with no camera. There's one with the Fisherman Kit camera where you have the release mechanism and the fixed camera on there, which I didn't show you guys in this review. I think that's going to be the next video. I'm going to put that on, have the release mechanism, and we're going to go out and take a line out and just see how far we can take it, drop it, and see if we can catch some big fish. That'll be fun. I think they're actually coming out with there's a new gimbal, a 2-axis gimbal, that actually has a release mechanism on it as well. I'm not sure if it's 2-axis or 1-axis, but I think it's kind of still in development. But you're gonna have camera like this with stabilization and also the release mechanism. So that should be coming out pretty soon. Anyway guys, I hope you like that full review. That was part 2 of the SplashDrone 3. I'm going to try to do a couple more with this. Maybe we'll go search for some sharks and stuff, and we'll get that up there. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Heading out the door, yeah. The waves is on fire, but the beat is getting hot. This is my desire that wants to hit the spot, yeah. Cool, cool down. The waves is on fire, but the day is getting hot. This is my desire that wants to hit the spot, yeah. Cool, cool down. The water's looking nice and blue, bluer than the clearest skies. The waves are fire.